Boom! Shake the room, Fire Nation. JLD here with an audio masterclass on how to go from 0 to $6 million in annual revenue in 2 years. I have brought Colton on to chat about this. He and his team over at Jumper Media have helped over 4,000 businesses tell their stories through Instagram. And again, just to repeat, this is just insane numbers. He's gone from 0 to $6 million in annual recurring revenue in 2 years. And he's gone from 3 employees to 50 employees. So we're going to be talking about how he did that, about how to scale and leverage our time by outsourcing through Upwork, how to build an internal team, how to figure out lead gen, the cash flow solution without getting outside investment, because outside investment's a scary place to play sometimes. We'll be talking about all that and more when we get back from thanking our sponsor. Big shout out to ClickFunnels for sponsoring today's episode. Fire Nation, ClickFunnels gives you everything you need to market, sell, and deliver your products online without having to hire or rely on a tech team. Visit eofire.com/click for your free 14-day trial of ClickFunnels. That's eofire.com/click. Your future awaits. Colton, say what's up to Fire Nation and share something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
What's up, Fire Nation? Really excited to be here. Interesting thing about me, I grew up restoring a lot of classic cars with my dad. Always finding a problem, trying to find a solution for it. I think that's really what got me into that mindset of trying to think outside the box, and it's something I still enjoy today a lot.
You know, I just love how we live in this world where we have such varying interests. I mean, if you were to tell me like what my version of purgatory is, it would probably be handing me a socket wrench and like going to like fix any kind of a car. Like I literally will go weeks without even getting into a car, and I'll be happy about that. But some people just love that. And I just love the varying degrees of inspirations and passions that we have. I mean, is this something that you still kind of foresee you doing, you know, as you kind of enter your later years, Colton?
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever I get some extra time, it's always fun to spend that in the garage, you know, especially when you're working on something with someone else you enjoy company with. It's a great way to share that experience and build something you're proud of, you know, together down the road you can appreciate. So that's kind of what I got most joy out of doing that, especially with my father and going through that process a few times. And I think down the road, yeah, when I get more time to do more projects like that, it'll be a lot of fun and something I can kind of take myself out of, you know, the day-to-day life, and you kind of forget what you're doing and focus on the project at hand.
No, that's really cool. I think it's so important to have something, especially with your loved ones. I mean, like how you had that with your dad. I mean, for me and my dad, I think we both are as bad around cars as we are. So, you know, we're just like, let's go for a walk. And like, we'll go for a walk and we'll talk and we'll chat. But we both just like being outside, having that stroll, having that time together. So, you know, Fire Nation, I really hope that you're striving to connect with those that you love and those you enjoy spending time with on mutual interests that you have, because it can be a really great way to kind of grow that relationship, grow that bond. But Colton, as interesting as this is, we're here to talk about going from 0 to $6 million in annual revenue in just 2 years. So, I mean, the total dollar amount is incredible. The time frame that it happened in is incredible. So we have a lot of awesome things to talk about. I know Fire Nation, you got your notepads out because you're going to want to take notes on this rocket ship of a journey. But before we really do dive in, I kind of want to hear, Colton, you know, this kind of accidental business thing happens over and over again. I mean, with over 2,000 interviews, I've recognized that entrepreneurs start businesses they never would have dreamed of or thought of, you know, even months, weeks, days before. So talk about how this accidental business kind of happened with you.
I think you still kind of got to wake up and pinch yourself of like, you know, how this all happened in such a short period of time. And I mean, for me, it was simply, I was actually working on a different startup, you know, in the golf industry. I played college golf. And I graduated. I was very involved with that industry still. You know, I had an app that we were building for, like, it was targeting golf instructors. And so I was just on Instagram trying to grow an audience around that demo and trying to reach out to them. And that was my target audience at the time. And I literally had one of them reach out to me and ask, hey, I like what you guys are doing. I like your product at the time. But can you help me grow my Instagram? I'm trying to drive some leads through that. And I think it's an interesting avenue and I just need help. And, you know, kind of like pre-rev, like startup, I was, you know, still grinding back then, like living in the parents' house. I just graduated. I was just like, hey, if I can build a relationship and help someone out, it's going to pay off down the road at some point. So I was just doing it for free. And I took over his Instagram. I started helping him, coaching what to post, kind of strategy wise there. And then next thing you know, I was actively engaging, building his community. And he had $2,000 in lesson sales come in that month from Instagram DMs. And, he's out of Miami and he was teaching at the Doral Country Club over there, which is, a Trump course. It's very high end. He's charging $200 a lesson. And who does his clientele happen to be, right? Happen to be business owners who are out there vacationing with their families who are getting a lesson out in the course at the resort. That gratitude, I think he had for me. I kept working with him and he kept referring me clients that he would just talk about who heard about him from Instagram in the first place. And they all had businesses, restaurants, bars, companies. And that's really what spurred my first 27 clients. To the point where I couldn't do any more myself. And that's where we started to kind of expand and figure out how to scale the business.
Well, that's kind of what I want to talk about next, because a lot of successful entrepreneurs have found that initial success and they kind of then max out their own personal time, their own personal effort, their own personal energy and bandwidth and finances. And they hit this wall. And now it's time to look around and be like, okay, how do we scale? How do we leverage our time? And obviously going from 0 to $6 million in annual revenue, going from 3 to 50 employees, you've done that. Like, you've figured it out. And, something that you've done that through is figured out outsourcing through a company called Upwork. So let's kind of talk about the process of like how you figured out how to scale and leverage, what your path was outsourcing through Upwork. Really curious about all that.
I've been using like freelancer websites even since I was doing the other startup, right? Like when you don't have funding and you're just trying to bootstrap stuff, that's kind of where you end up Googling and getting towards. And every day I talk to business owners that are clients now that have never even heard of Upwork, or, a lot of them have never even experienced it. So I guess it's something not a ton of people are looking towards quite yet, but they just did their IPO. So let's definitely jump into that. So Upwork definitely is becoming more and more relevant to people these days. And I think when I started jumping into it, I was looking at it as, hey, I can't afford to hire someone here locally and I don't have the time to find someone, and I'm looking for a specific business need. And I would kind of just Google it and search in Upwork for someone who was really good at it. And I started getting better and better at sourcing, people based on what I saw on their profiles. And that was just kind of just by doing it through experience. And it takes time, because that's the hardest thing working on there, is just figuring out who's really going to make a difference and who's a terrible freelancer from India that you don't want to waste your time with, because that's the most valuable thing, is you're hiring someone to help free up time. And what I realized is through that process, scaling the employees internally was a whole different thing. But what Upwork enabled was really this buffer. And this is something I never really expected, but ended up being a really vital piece of our scaling process now in the company, which we still use even with 50 employees. We constantly work with outsourced freelancers through Upwork and other sources now that, we get references and other people, but sometimes taking on a full-time employee as you're waiting for more clients to come in, there's a loss there, right? I'm putting out upfront capital on a salary and I don't have a full plate for them to take over as a full-time position until I start getting more clients from them. But I want to be prepared for when I get an excess amount of new clients next week, that we're not struggling as a team and overstretched like I was, when I was trying to figure out how to scale things. So what I did is I found someone outsourced in every department of the company and have that person a great relationship. And, those 20 or 25 clients that may have a buffer as we scale per person, I can pretty much fill that buffer or that freelancer or outsourced team up. And when we're at a certain point where it's like, hey, they're working with 20 clients of ours. Now they know our processes, they know what we're doing, and I'm going to take half of those and basically have a full plate ready for the person that we've just hired full time internally to have, be profitable from day one. And, the freelancer's well aware of that. And we have a trusting relationship where they know we're not going to take all their clients away, but there is a constant flow of that hiring process. And that's how we've kind of been able to manage always having availability to take on new clients while not depleting all of our resources and cash flow with having too many people on the team that aren't profitable.
what I would really like to dive into next is some specific tactics. Like you said, you've now hired a lot of people, you've utilized the service, like you've gone back and forth, you found out, how to avoid that, sketchy boilerplate response from India. Like what are some things that you've done specifically that Fire Nation can emulate, can learn from, can take action on in this hiring process? And we're looking to go, maybe not from 3 to 50 right now, most of us, but how about from like 1 to 3 or from 2 to 4? Like how does that process work?
A lot of it depends on what you're doing, I think, and what digital marketing or what you're focusing on. But I mean, for me, even like internally, like the best type of clients and the best thing we can do for clients and attracting anyone is giving before we ask to take, right? And I'm a big believer of that. I think that's really how we've built trust and been able to build a brand. Is we've always been, since I started this thing, it was always giving, and hoping people realize that and they're going to give you something back. And the best freelancers I've come across, and my process is, I usually, you create a job posting, you go through that. You're going to evaluate people who are submitting requests. I'm going to be inviting people. I spend, maybe 30 minutes to an hour going through Upwork or any other site you go to for freelancers and hand inviting certain people that fit with under my criteria and really price range that I'm able to pay. And from there, I'm looking for someone to reach out to me or respond to that project or job I posted with the act of giving first. Everybody is there to take, and all they care about is, start a contract. I want to get paid. The best people and the best really relationships I've built out of Upwork or any other freelancing position that we've started as have been from people coming and wanting to actually give first and show you what they can do and how that relationship can pan out. And, and I think, it's not rocket science to see the value in that, right? I mean, if you put yourself in their shoes and you're ready to grind and you really want to help someone and build your business, you would be doing the same thing because you're willing to give a little bit before you take and ask for something. And that's, if someone has that quality, I think they're going to be someone I really want to work with long term. And that's what I look for.
So let me give you a specific tactic that I've used in the past that's really kind of helped me weed through the weeds, so to speak, and really make sure that I'm really only spending my time looking through proper applicants so that I know I'm building out the right team. And then, maybe come back with a couple, specific tactics like this that you've utilized. So number one, like one thing that I love doing is the very last question, or it's even more of a statement on my application that I put out like onto Upwork or a company like that, is I say, listen, after you're done filling out the, answering these questions, when you reply to this job posting, the word purple has to be in the subject line. The word purple has to be in the subject line. And that's the last thing. And so what does that do? Now, when I get 247 job posting replies to my job posting, what can I do? I can go through and not open the 90+% that don't have the word purple in the subject line, because why am I ever going to want to hire somebody that doesn't pay enough attention to detail to see the last bullet point where I give a specific order for them to complete? And so I only then go and open up the job postings that have the word purple in the subject line. It is a super simple process that allows me to cut out all the flack from, maybe the 60 to 70% of just boilerplate job postings that I'm getting, and then the 20 to 30% of people that just aren't caring enough to pay enough attention in their application, to really maybe the top 5 to 10% of people who have taken the time to really care enough. So just something like that, Colton, like what's something that you do and you've done going from 3 to 50, and I'm sure you're probably even higher than that now as we're speaking, that could really help our listeners?
I love that approach, John. I think it depends on what I'd be hiring for. I think that's a genius idea. The one thing that I have noticed though is you get a ton of those boilerplate responses, and a lot of them are automated, right? There's software systems and stuff out there that are helping those freelancers automate that process. And I mean, like any of our businesses, right? We have drip email sequences. We have as much automation as we can do internally and externally to be able to take on more clients, to do more of the things that we're the best at and add value where we can. One of the things I've noticed, not to combat that strategy, because I think that is a huge time saver, but I definitely have had some people where you get a boilerplate response, and I may have taken more time to go through all the responses and take a quick look. Because sometimes those boilerplates to those automated responses you get, it's just someone who's a little bit smarter and they just figured out, hey, I can automate this and I'm getting more leads myself because they're running their own business, right? So I guess taking that into consideration a little bit sometimes on my end is I'm not so much focused on that first response or proposal they send right off the bat to get my attention. I'm more focused on, like, I look at some of their qualities. I'm sorting by, a lot of their reviews and how much business they've done on Upwork or other websites. And then from there, if they have an automated system in place, good for them, man. I think, they're saving their time. They're able to do more of what they're the best at. And I'm going to respond to them with that dignity of like, hey, you're a business owner too. You're running your stuff. Let's talk, and I'm going to send you a real message. And if you don't get back to me with something that is that giving feeling, or that you are looking and paying attention to this, then I ignore them completely. So I have a kind of a copy and pasted first message that I go through. That's my next step. Is instead, like, they have their templates, I have my template. I go through and I say, hey, we're doing an interview like we would hire anyone internally. This is a test. I want you to see what you can do. And I'll go through anybody who doesn't respond to that test. Now I know it's automated. I know they don't care. And that's where I draw the line. So a little bit different, but I think you may get a few more, potential good fits for what you're doing without weeding them out with, right in the beginning.
So now you have a team, 50 people more, and you've had to turn that into a team that actually functions on a day-to-day basis. So you've been able to build an internal team that actually functions, that works. So talk about that. Talk about, now that you have hired the people, you have the people, how do you build a team with those individuals?
Man, I think we're all still learning a lot, especially, being the first company that, me and my two co-founders have started running. Like when I was doing this myself and I got to those, first about 30 clients, and I looked to them to kind of, two of them were my best friends. And one of them was working for a startup that got acquired by Groupon. And the other one was working for the SF Giants up in San Francisco. And, we worked out of the living room and finally got to the point where we opened up an office. And then we were like, hey, there's no way we're going to fill this office up. So we should probably start a co-working, office to help subsidize this rent. And next thing you know, we have 40 people in here and we're looking to get a bigger office, right, in a year and a half. So it really happened pretty organically, but the processes we set in place, I think it was just really replicating what was working. And the biggest thing about, I think that, handling this internal team now is communication and being able to be transparent with them. I think that's the biggest thing we've learned is as we're building products and optimizing processes and talking to clients on the phone and how we're handling certain situations, a lot of that gets missed more and more as you hire a bigger team. And then you have to put managers in place and be able to communicate it again and a second time and be able to remind people and stay on top of people. And I honestly think, John, the only reason why this has really worked is we were able to find, I think we have about, a 7 or 8 really great young, motivated people who joined our team early on out of college. And I mean, we weren't paying salaries to hire, someone with a ton of experience, but, you're going to have some great people who join your team that can help be really self-motivated and think about how they can add value. And that's what we lucked out with, is if we had to micromanage every single person in the company, it would have never been able to work. And we never would have had an internal team that was efficient. I think more than anything, I think we're just lucky that we found a good portion of people that we work with every day that, hey, they know what they need to do. They're looking to continuously add value and think about how they can help others around them and be a leader in their own respect. And that's been huge for us. I think, looking for those individuals and people with those core values and key characteristics, especially when you're building an early team, they're going to help put in processes they learn. And you can't duplicate yourself in a lot of ways. And I think especially like solopreneurs, and when you're doing things yourself, crap, even if I'm replacing the sprinkler outside in the backyard, there's a certain way I want to do it. And when I have someone else do it, or they, do it a different way, it may not be as effective in your eyes. And letting go of that and having people be able to kind of think on their own and help set processes up as well, that's been huge for us. And taking a step back and understanding it's not going to be perfect every time, but as long as you're realizing what's going on and you can, fail and learn and figure out how to prevent that in the future. That's really all we've been doing. It's just you fall and you get back up, and how can we prevent this from happening later down the road? And once you put that block in place, that's how you keep getting better and better.
Fire Nation, is one thing to actually hire people. It's another thing to actually build a team from those people. But now what? Now you've got to do some real business type things, which is figuring out lead generation, which is figuring out your cash flow, because you can have the best hires, the best team in the world, but if you are not leading and you are not creating a business that has cash flow, and if you are not actually generating significant revenue, those doors aren't staying open, those lights aren't staying on, your business is going to go away. So when we get back from thanking our sponsor, we're going to be diving into those things, figuring out lead generation, cash flow solutions, will it actually going out towards outside investments, and a couple other things. So we'll be right back. Fire Nation, if you're going to create financial and lifestyle freedom, you need the right tools and support. For over 4 years now, I've been using ClickFunnels to create a business I love without being techie or hiring a huge team. In a nutshell, ClickFunnels gives you everything you need to market, sell, and deliver your products online without having to hire and rely on a tech team. That's why I love them. Best part, you can get a free 14-day trial right now to check it out for yourself. A few of my favorite ClickFunnels features: the simple drag and drop web page editor, the ability to quickly build sales funnels that convert, the smart shopping cart with one-click upsells, email and Facebook marketing automation, and the fact that everything is organized on one simple dashboard. What's not to love? So whether you want to generate more leads, sell more products and services, run a webinar, or send more emails, ClickFunnels will make it super simple to do all that, plus so much more. Take my word for it and try ClickFunnels for free for 14 days. Make it a goal to create one funnel by the end of the week, and you'll be amazed at how simple and fun it is. Next step, visit eofire.com/click and sign up for that free 14-day trial. That's eofire.com/click. Your future awaits. Colton, we're back, and lead generation. It is such a critical thing for businesses. So many people don't realize that if your leads are drying up, your business is soon to follow. So talk about lead generation. Talk about how you figured out lead generation and some of the wins and losses you've had recently.
Lead generation is the most important part of scaling a business, especially at the rate that we've scaled. It never would have happened if we didn't figure out a really effective automated lead gen. And before we got into that, we had to first find the product market fit and understand that what we were providing and creating for small businesses was actually effective, and they were going to refer it to people, and they were excited about it, right? So once we had this product market fit and clients were getting value and we realized that, the next thing is like, how do we get more people to hear about it? And at that point, we didn't have any money to spend on a ton of paid ads, right? So we were really scrappy. And I think, like a lot of non-funded businesses that don't raise capital, it's, you can't just go door to door, and you also can't go spend $20,000 a month on Facebook and Instagram ads with an ROI expected on lifetime value of your client, right? With a cash burn. So, I mean, we were trying to be profitable with as much as we could immediately with as many clients as we could, because we needed the cash flow to even hire more people. And at that point, we really couldn't, right? It was 3 of us at the time, and, we're figuring out how we could even open an office. And what we came to was essentially these DMs that we started sending out through Instagram. I figured if I sent out, 30 or 40 DMs an hour at the time, the limits were a little bit higher when we started this thing. So we could send out a bunch of DMs, and between the 3 of us, we'd get 2 to 5 calls booked. And you get 5 calls a day and you close, a few of them. That's when we started getting on the phone with clients, and we just developed a small little process that with 3 of us doing it, we knew we could get X amount of closed deals a week. From there, it was kind of like, okay, well, now we're doing DMs. How can we do this one step further? And we figured out, hey, we can also email people, but with stats from Instagram. And so we got personalized with it. I mean, we can pull their Instagram data. We built some software automation that helped us do this a little bit and make it a little bit, more capable for us to scale it. And essentially it was just putting in merge tags in these emails that was pulling some relevant data that we were gathering on our end and inputting. And it was like, hey, John, I noticed you had, 300 Instagram followers and your engagement's at 3%. Would love to hop on a call with you and just talk about how we're increasing that with some clients. Here's my Calendly. And now you introduced a bookable calendar link, and we just created a process that we could send out, 100 emails a day. We could get X amount of calls booked per day. And we started creating, analytics that we could track and scale, and a process that we could teach other people. But the problem was we didn't figure out how we could afford to pay more people and hire them and scale that team to grow the sales team. And that's kind of where we go back to the internal team building. Is once we figured out this process for this lead gen and something that we could replicate and teach someone, our next problem was, how do we get the cash up front to be able to hire someone on salary and give them the confidence, especially without an office and what we're doing, to want to work for us full time and do this. So like the only solution we had was, the first place that we could do, two options were, we basically go raise money, and we were in San Francisco at the time. So it's like, talk about Silicon Valley, where every startup is born and where you want to be if you're looking for capital. Or, how do we drive more sales and get more capital from our existing happy clients? And we all know SaaS models, we all know how they work. And, you prepay for a discount for X amount of months for service. Say I want to pay for 12 months for something, and I get 15% discount as a customer, and I trust that product and I know I'm going to use it. So I want the discount. I'm going to prepay, especially at a low price point. People do it all the time. And that was very, very, common in that small business world. And we're like, well, even though we're kind of a service and agency and we're doing social media, and every other agency is billing hourly, or they're doing month-to-month retainers or things like that, or even, they're doing billing after work's been complete, right? Like a typical agency workflow. We didn't have accounts payable. We didn't have anybody to do all that. So we just tried to set up the most automated thing we could and continue focus on selling and scaling. And we decided to try to get clients to pay for 3 months. We just asked them. And luckily they liked our product and service enough to where they didn't even question it. And I think that was the big aha moment for us, where we decided we're going to stop selling monthly packages for social media services to clients and new customers. And we went straight to 3, 6, and 12 months. And they had to prepay, and there was no discount from the monthly to the 3 month. We just said, that's where we're going to start. And we figured we're going to sell a third of new sales as we did the previous month. But hey, we have the cash and we have more time because we're onboarding less clients and we have less work. And now we're able to kind of get better at that process. Well, little did we know, we got to the end of the month and we sold, I think, like 3 or 4 more deals in the month beforehand. And we just tripled our cash flow unexpectedly. So that was the moment where we had this cash flow solution to be able to start scaling and hiring people and bringing them on, just by getting our clients to kind of prepay with expected services and trust that we built up over time. And, building that trust, took a lot of testimonial videos and a lot of, going out and meeting with clients and getting those references. And a lot goes into that, building a brand and trust you can share and display through digital marketing. I think that played a big role too, but, asking your clients for capital, sometimes that worked for us. And I think it's something that we don't look to quick enough, because I think so many startups and stuff are looking to raise capital outside. But think about asking your customers, and if you're providing a solid product that they have the expectation of using long term, and you give them something to do that, I think it's really a no-brainer for them if that trust is there.
Now, Colton, I'm going to ask you in a minute here some pitfalls to avoid when looking for outside investments, because there's obviously some things that you can do wrong, and maybe you did do wrong, and some lessons you learned, and some advice for Fire Nation. But first, I want to go through this lead generation thing, Fire Nation. Let's figure out lead gen. What did Colton do? Well, he figured out that he could DM people on Instagram, and from that, he could get people on the phone. Now, guess what? You figure out your numbers. It's always a numbers game. How many sales do you want per day? Okay, you had that number now. How many people do you need to talk to on the phone if you want to close that number of sales? Okay, now you have that number. Now, how many people do you need to DM to get that number of calls booked? Okay, now you have that number. Guess what? Now go send that number of DMs. It's a numbers game, period. So Colton, kind of bring us back again to how you actually went through this process of increasing your cash flow without having to go to those outside investments, and why exactly you think that could be a better route for a lot of businesses who want to avoid the potential pitfalls of those outside investments.
It's a question that we really had to ask ourselves because we had a profitable business. It looked good on paper as our growth was going. I mean, we probably could have raised money from friends and family and some outside investors. And, growing up in the golf world, it's like, yeah, there's a ton of retired wealthy people around San Francisco who play golf that I knew. And it kind of like, we took a step back and just thought, what do we really want to spend our time doing? And how can we address what's another solution for this problem of scaling? And that's what brought us back to our customers is, we were terrified to ask them to prepay for anything. I mean, I remember the first sales call I had, I was terrified to ask for any money at all, right? Like I can't tell you how many accounts, I think I'm still doing like 50 clients for free to date right now, that just some of those early clients that I built up that I'm still grandfathering in because we use them for testimonials and they add a ton of value and I can't appreciate them any more than I already do, right? But I think the thing for me is I'm still scared to ask them to pay, right? I'm still doing it for free because, I tried to find how we can work together long term of using them for testimonials and things because I still can't to this day be like, hey, it's time to pay us. I don't want to do it. And I remember how tough of a call it is and ask for payment for something that you don't even know if it adds value yet or not. And that getting over that hurdle, the next step was like, how do you get someone to prepay for something? And especially 6-12 months out. And as, especially like a first-time business owner and looking at how we're going to pitch that to them, we kind of just had to step up and ask. And that was the first step is we just started talking to clients. And we're like, how long do you expect to do this for? What are some of the things you like about it? What don't you like? What are your goals? And that's how we basically framed it. Is a lot of sales pitches and a lot of digital marketers, they're going like, that's what they talk to the client about is like, what are your goals? And then we're going to put together a plan to hit those. Well, that's what we did for Instagram and social media. It's like, what are your goals? And it's going to take you about 6 to 12 months to hit those. Guess what? You get 15% discount if you're going to be here for 6 months and you trust what we're doing. We have 12 video testimonials to help with that. We have a lot, we have some proof and social proof. And once we built that up, I think we started feeling a little bit more confident and comfortable asking some of the clients to do that. And that was really the solution for us. It was just, looking within and being like, hey, we actually have some trust and we shouldn't feel bad asking for a client to prepay, especially when we're incentivizing it for them. And we were just surprised at the outcome. And I think a lot of people would be if they took a step back and asked. And I think clients are actually appreciative of it, right? Like now we have a referral program and they literally, like, our clients don't want to refer people for the lowest package deal, right? They want to be able to offer a 6 and 12 month options to these referrals at a discount to their friends because they feel like, hey, you're getting more value by prepaying for this. And that's even surprising, right? It's like, we just wanted to, refer someone for a month and we're happy. And they're like, I don't want my friends to sign up for a month because they're not going to get value out of it. I want them to prepay for 12 months and I want them to get a better deal. And if they're telling us that, right? And there's so many other businesses and customers that I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have, how do you realize those and put together a package that helps them feel like they're getting a better deal while also giving you, what you're looking for, which is more cash flow and more resources to be able to scale a little bit.
So Colton, we've now been talking for over 30 minutes. We've gone through a lot of things that can help entrepreneurs and small business owners grow, scale, build teams, hire, just do a lot of incredibly important things. If there's just one takeaway, one thing that you want to make sure our listeners really get from our chat, what is that? Don't
be afraid to give. That's the one thing I've taken away from this whole experience more than anything is just remembering how much people appreciate you giving before you ask for anything. And it can be very scalable if you figure out how to teach that process to your team and help them understand the value of that, of going above and beyond just a little bit for a customer when you have the opportunity to, leads to so many more opportunities down the road. And I can't harp on that enough, of just seeing that firsthand over the last 2 years of what it's enabled. And as I said, I'm still doing like 50 clients for free, and we still take on some down the road that, are going to lead to relationships, and further opportunities. And I see more potential in those than, collecting a couple checks here and there right off the bat. So it's just evaluating relationships and what you can give to people, because a lot of the times it's going to come back in tenfold. If you buy me a Coke, right, I'm probably going to buy you lunch. And I know there's an old saying with that, but it's true. Especially, it doesn't matter if you're a SaaS company or you're a huge agency, or you're a one-man show and you're just trying to grind and scale. Relationships matter a ton.
And in the spirit of giving, do you have a call to action? Do you have something that you want Fire Nation to take action on before we say goodbye?
Just really appreciate the time, John. And if anyone is looking for some help on social media and Instagram and how to reach more people and grow their audience a little bit, as DMing does obviously scale a little bit as we've talked about. Feel free to get in touch with me personally or our team anytime. We're happy to answer any questions or help out where we see we're a good fit with you.
Well, go ahead, share the URL, the email, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's jumpermedia.co is a website, or you can find us on Instagram. But yeah, the website's probably the best, has our number there, and feel free to call and talk to someone whenever you're looking for some social media help.
Fire Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you've been hanging out with CB and JLD today, so keep up the heat. And if you head over to eofire.com and type Colton in the search bar, the show notes page is going to pop up with everything that we've been talking about today, links, timestamps, you name it, it's there. And of course, head directly over to jumpermedia.co, that's .co, if you want to learn more about what Colton and his team have going on, if you want to jump on a call, if you want to just, study their model. I mean, they have a lot of really smart things that are happening over there. So jumpermedia.co. And Colton, thank you for sharing your truth with Fire Nation today. For that, we salute you, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Hey, fire me up, John. I appreciate it, man. Take it easy. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Fire Nation. Hope you enjoyed today's chat with Colton and just rock the mic. Cool stuff. And if you're ready to rock a podcast, why don't you check out our free podcasting course? Well, I will teach you how to create and launch your podcast. It's completely free at freepodcastcourse.com. freepodcastcourse.com. I'll catch you there, or I'll catch you on the flip side. Fire Nation, it's time to create financial and lifestyle freedom. So take action today and sign up for your free 14-day trial of ClickFunnels. As a reminder, ClickFunnels gives you everything you need to market, sell, and deliver your products online without having to hire or rely on a tech team. Visit eofire.com/click. That's eofire.com/click. Your future awaits.